This is your Blue Rush. I guess we could call this your post-free agency pre-draft episode. Free agency has pretty much died down. Pro days are wrapping up. And we're around 22 days into the draft. Our Giants beat writer for the Post, Paul Schwartz, just got back from the NFL owners' meetings. So he's here on now to talk all things Giants, Giants football. And of course, we got to talk about all the cool stuff that he was able to do down in Palm Beach at the NFL owners' meeting. Paul, what's going on, man? Glad you're back. Haven't talked football with you in a long time, my man.
Yeah, it seems like it's only gotten busier and busier after the season ended, Brandon. It was certainly a season to forget. And yeah, a lot of stuff going on. I've been at the Senior Bowl. I've been at Cam Ward's Pro Day. I've been at the Combine. And I've been at the NFL owners meetings in Palm Beach. So a lot of stuff, a lot of free agents they signed, and certainly a tremendous amount of NFL draft intrigue. I mean, it's really this draft has the potential for the Giants to be really something very, very interesting.
All right, so let's start this off. We'll talk about what you want to talk about, man. Let's have a conversation here. Out of everything, again, like you said, you had the Senior Bowl. You just got back from the NFL owners meetings. What would you say is like the biggest thing on your mind in terms of Giants football that you need the Giants fans to hear right now?
You know, if you said to me just one word, it's quarterback. It's
Okay.
quarterback, it's quarterback, it's quarterback. That was the main thrust in free agency with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And it might not be the main thrust in the draft, but it could be. And the intrigue at the quarterback position is really remarkable. We'll get into that, a little later in this segment, but it's just, the Giants have three quarterbacks really. They have, two new ones, and the next one they add will be maybe the most interesting of the whole group.
All right, so do you think that with the third overall pick, do you feel like they're going to go quarterback? I'm going to say no because they brought in Russell Wilson. I feel like that buys them time in terms of not having to pick a sure thing quarterback for the future.
Well, the problem is there is no sure thing quarterback in this draft. If there was, the Giants would draft one. If the Giants had the number one pick, which they did going into week 17 last year, I think this would be easy. They'd be sitting at number one and taking Cam Ward, and they wouldn't have signed Russell Wilson. But now we're going back to go forward to go back, right? So,
Yep.
that didn't happen. They have the number three pick. Look, Joe Shane said down in Palm Beach that we put ourselves into position now that we don't have to, meaning have to take a quarterback. That doesn't mean they won't. From the buzz I was getting, lesser at the Combine, because the Combine was a lot of Matt Stafford talk and Aaron Rodgers talk, right? Seems like an eternity ago. At the owners' meetings, the buzz I was getting strongly was not necessarily from the Giants, a little bit from the Giants, but from everybody else around them, was that Cam Ward is pretty much a done deal, number one, to the Titans. That the Browns, Shador Sanders is very much not a done deal for the Browns, and they are leaning more likely to not taking a quarterback there and probably taking Abdul Carter,
Oh,
which leaves the most intriguing decision the Giants have had in years at number three. Do you just sit there and take Shador Sanders, quarterback from Colorado, or do you take Travis Hunter, cornerback and wide receiver from Colorado? Two Colorado players, right? Quite unusual. And I think in that scenario, they take Travis Hunter. Feeling moderately strong about that today in early April, 3 weeks into April. Maybe I'll have a different take on that. But I just think, as you said, with Russell Wilson, here's the thing, with Russell Wilson and with Jameis Winston, that does not preclude them from taking a quarterback. Russell Wilson signed for 1 year.
yeah.
Jameis Winston is signed for two. It's essentially a 1 year deal. That does not preclude them taking a quarterback at all. I think the key is, what do they think of Shador Sanders, and do they think he's worth the number three pick? Do they think he's close to the other quarterbacks in the draft that they might be able to get one later? And do they think that Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter, when you evaluate them as prospects, they are close? I do not think they're close. I don't think the Giants think they're close. So I think that could be the direction they go away from the quarterback there.
Well, that's pretty interesting with what you said, and that does put them in a situation about the Browns not being pressed to take a quarterback, especially with after what the owner said about admitting that the whole Deshaun Watson situation was a complete, I guess we could call it a debacle, Paul. They got nothing out of Deshaun Watson, but they had to pay him, what, $235 million? guaranteed. So I was thinking that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, like Joe Shane knew that they weren't going to be there. And then we were going to come to the whole situation of do you go Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? But now the fact that you could have a situation where it is Shedeur Sanders and Abdul Carter there, or Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. The fan base, they're already torn right now on who to take at 3. This will really tear the fan base apart when it comes to that. And then we're really going to put a lot of the, I guess not so much draft experts, but a lot of stuff of what we're seeing on social media with the Brian Dable and Shedeur handshake and them being at Colorado practices, and Brandon Brown, assistant GM Brandon Brown, speaking at Colorado practices. Then we got to get to see if that was all a bunch of smoke and mirrors, or what they really thought of Shedeur Sanders if he is sitting there at 3. So I'm glad, or in terms of, if I'm a wide receiver and I'm looking at this offense, I'm Darius Slayton, I'm Malik Neighbors, you're almost glad they grabbed Russell Wilson. You're hoping that he still has something left in that tank, something with that moon ball, because regardless if it's Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Shuck, if it's Riley Leonard, doesn't matter who comes in. We don't have time for a learning curve. We don't have time to get a guy up to speed. So it's like you're in a better position now that you grabbed Russell Wilson in free agency, a quarterback that could come in, pick up the playbook right away. And whoever it is you bring in, if you do draft a quarterback, they're all just going to have to compete, Paul. And I think that's a great
here's the
situation
thing, Brandon. You do all this work. You don't do all this work in Shedeur Sanders to say, look, at the end of this, we have to love him. That's why we're doing all this, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Last year, what did we hear at this time last year? J.J. McCarthy. Giants love J.J. McCarthy. The Giants are in on J.J. McCarthy. You know what? The Giants were not all in on J.J. McCarthy at all last year. They did all the work. They did all the evaluations, mentally, physically, emotionally, and said, no, we're not taking him, and they didn't take him. And we don't know if that's right or wrong, because J.J. McCarthy got hurt with the Vikings and he hasn't played. So don't believe everything you see. And just because they're around these guys for a reason. They're not around these guys to take them. They're around these guys to figure out if they should take them. And I think what the league is going to do with Shedeur Sanders is say, you're not worth the 2nd pick in the draft, and you're not worth the 3rd pick in the draft. I think that is what the league is going to say. Now, I could be wrong. The Browns need a quarterback, right? They have Kenny Pickett, and they can sign a veteran. They can draft somebody. They need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback in the future. They don't have one. They have Russell Wilson, who's 36, and Jameis Winston, who's very much suited to be a backup. Yeah. So if Shedeur Sanders was a guy, or Jackson Dart, let's say, from Ole Miss, was a guy that the Giants said, you know what? We like him a lot. Maybe not ready to play right away. We can have Russ there. We can have Jameis there. We can bring this guy in. If they love Shedeur, they would take him at 3. I don't think they love him. I think they like him. I don't think they love him.
Do you think that Shedeur can have one of those Lamar Jackson type draft nights where he's sitting there? Well, he's not going to be in the green room. He's not going to be in Wisconsin. He'll be back home. But you think he'll be sitting there? He could be sitting there by his phone for quite a long time on that Thursday night.
Well, it won't be the Lamar Jackson in the 30s. It won't be that. But look, it could be the 2. It could be, but I don't think it will be at this point. Teams like the Browns, who screw up everything, you know what I mean, could eventually come back to him, or eventually be off him. We're not sure. But that was the buzz I was getting. Look, if Shedeur does not go 3 to the Giants, that is a story, and that's a fall. Because as what you said, and what a lot of us were thinking, boy, if Shedeur's there, they're going to take him. Yeah. So if he doesn't go 3 to the Giants, and he doesn't go 2 to the Browns, 2 teams that need quarterbacks, then that will be considered a fall. He's not going 4 to the Patriots. Now, if somebody loves him, maybe they'll trade up at the Patriots and and get him if they love him. I don't know if he's going to be viewed as that kind of a prospect. Look, you have to evaluate these guys and determine if you love them. If Joe Shane said it in Palm Beach, he said, if you take a guy, especially as a quarterback, up that high in the draft at number 3, you have to say he's a guy who's going to win the NFC East. We're going to win the NFC East with him all the time, or most of the time. And he is a quarterback we can close our eyes and envision. He can help us take us to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I don't know if the Giants are there right now on Shedeur Sanders, giving those parameters.
Very interesting. But they do have 5 picks in the top 105. So the fact that you went and got the quarterback for the right now, you have the 3rd overall pick, and you have 5 in the top 105. They're really in a good position going into the draft, as opposed to a couple weeks ago where it's like, what are the Giants going to do? And that's all because of free agency as well. I think, I got to tip my hat to Joe Shane for his free agency. One, because he didn't throw that Hail Mary. Yeah, they went after Matthew Stafford, and I think everyone would have been okay with the fact that they gave up whatever it is they needed to do to bring in a Matthew Stafford. But 2, they addressed that defense, Paul, specifically the back end. And when Mr. Mara was talking about, you were there when he was talking at the end of the year, when he was saying, I'm tired of seeing offenses just walk up and down the field on this defense. I was thinking it was more the run game, the defensive run game. But no, it's the secondary. The secondary is what they addressed. But from Paulson Adebo to Jevon Holland, I like those 2 picks. Now, if they do have the opportunity to bring in a Travis Hunter with already bringing in Adebo and Jevon Holland, instantly, I feel as though that Giants defense just got better on the back end, just like that.
And the offense might have gotten better too, because if Travis Hunter runs 7 or 8 or 10 patterns as a wide receiver, maybe he makes one big play. He's the most exciting and intriguing player in the draft. It's not Cam Ward, it's not Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter might be the next Micah Parsons, but Travis Hunter is the most interesting and intriguing. I think his jersey sales would hit hard right away if he was drafted by the Giants. Yeah. I'm tired of seeing defenses, march up and down or run up and down the field, whatever John Mara exactly said. I don't know if they really helped the run defense. Now, I think Chauncey Golston is a better run defender than, say, Azeez Ojulari is, so I think he can help there. But yes, you can't do everything every free agency period. You do what you can, and then you move on to the draft. I still think they need help against the run in the draft. But, I agree. With Paulson Adebo, he has 10 career interceptions, right? The Giants are just one of the worst teams in the league at taking away the ball in the defensive backfield. He helps there. Jevon Holland is just a really good safety and a good leader, good guy. So he is a big addition. He has 5, I believe, career interceptions. So what you do, Brandon, is now Paulson Adebo, 25. Jevon Holland, 25. Drew Phillips is what? 22, 23. Yep. Deontay Banks is what, 24. And Tyler Nubin is, was a rookie last year. He's in his early 20s. You have 5 defensive backs who you have under contract for at least the next 3 years, who are all 25 and under. If you hit with those guys, you have a lot of continuity. You add Travis Hunter to that mix. The Giants are looking at him more as a cornerback. Is it a surplus? Yes. Can the Mets and Yankees have too much pitching? No. Can you have too many really good cornerbacks? No.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that, what I like about that and what I like about everything you just said, if you take the Travis Hunter out of that, and let's say Abdul Carter does slide to 3, it helps you right there. You put yourself in position to add another headhunter or a guy who can wreck the decision maker on that defensive line. And we saw them up to a point. They were tied for league in sacks at some point. We don't know what they're going to do with Kayvon on that 5th-year option. So this could be, I guess, not somewhat Kayvon's replacement, but this could be someone who challenges Kayvon to make sure that he has a huge year this year. You lost Azeez Ojulari, who he was hurt a lot, but when he did play, he was effective. So you're going to need a 3rd pass rusher there. So, again, they've put themselves in a great position to whether if they go Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, I don't feel like people are going to be booing that pick at all.
No. Look, there are some fans who just want Shedeur, but I think if you would line up 100 Giants fans at random right now and say, would you rather have Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders? I think the big majority would say Travis Hunter. Yeah, you mentioned Abdul Carter. Why'd you take Justin Tuck when you have OC and Strahan, right? Why'd you take Jason Pierre-Paul when you have Kiwanuka and OC and Strahan, and Justin Tuck, not Strahan in that one? Because that's another position. You just come at them drove. So, I think just about every team, or maybe every team in this draft, looks at Abdul Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State, and Travis Hunter. Either you want to, if you know, if there were teams, the Patriots may draft Travis Hunter and make him a full-time wide receiver. Fine, God bless him. That's not wrong or right. We'll see how that pans out. But I think right now there are two players in this draft, only two, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, where all 32 teams want them and would have a great plan for them. That's how good of a prospects those two guys are.
Draft 22 days away. Who knows where the Giants go? There's a lot of people, or a lot of players in this draft that I feel like the Giants could take, plug and play, and be either day one starters or significant contributors. We'll see. But Paul, you just got back from the NFL owners meetings. I see you on Giants.com. You're sitting right there next to Brian Dable in that picture. Anything you can tell us out of the owners meetings that may have shocked you, or just some really good tea?
Yeah, I had to get up at like 5:30 in the morning to get that seat next to Brian Dable. Yeah, the AFC and NFC coaches breakfasts take place Tuesday and Wednesday at like 7:45 in the morning. So you got to get there pretty early to get a good seat. I was lucky enough to get up early and get a good seat. Yeah, look, you first of all, you mentioned about the draft. I mean, they can go in a lot of different directions, you know, and it's not only on that number three overall pick. I think they need a guard. I mean, I think they need a guard to come in and challenge for a starting job. They re-signed Greg Van Roten, but you know, he's a really good swing guard and center. He played pretty well at center last year in a fill-in role. But I think if they can get a guard, that would be very helpful. They need help, you know, defensive tackle, definitely. They could use someone who could start next to Dexter Lawrence. You know, as far as the buzz, Brandon, you know, I heard something down there I think you're going to be very interested in, you know, a little quarterback wide receiver friction.
Talk to me.
Okay. Does that intrigue you a
Talk
little
to
bit?
me. We divas. We get into it with our quarterbacks if they're not giving us the rock.
Okay, I was talking to an NFL head coach, okay, a young NFL head coach, okay, by the name of Liam Cohn when he was down there, right? He's the first year coach of the Jaguars, right? You know him, Brandon?
Yep, my former quarterback at UMass. That's my
You know Liam.
quarterback.
So I was talking to Liam Cohn, and I said, I introduced myself to him, and I said, yeah, I'm buddies with Brandon London. We do a podcast together. And he said, oh, he's a great guy. Brandon's great. I miss him. He's doing great. All this other stuff. And then I said, so tell me something about him, you know, as a player and everything. And he said, typical wide receiver. I was open. Why didn't you throw me the ball? Why didn't I get the ball? I was open. I was open. And then he looked at me and said, you know what I told him? Because Victor Cruz was more open, Brandon. Just get back to the huddle. Victor Cruz was open. Leave me alone. Victor
See,
Cruz was open. Stop bothering me with that you were open.
he's already.
He said it with a smile, but he said it so you have equal time here. You have a forum here. He wished you well, but he said, stop bothering me about throwing you me throwing you the ball. Victor Cruz was more open here.
He's already lying, and that lie was worse than his Duval, because me and Victor Cruz didn't play the same years. We were there the same years, but he didn't play my junior and senior
He
year.
said he had left, I think. Victor
Yeah,
Cruz had left.
I had left.
Yeah.
I had left, but Victor did. He did what we tied in most catches in the game with 16, and then we tied with most touchdowns in the game with 4 in one game. So, but yeah, Liam Cohen, great guy. I thought he was going to be somebody that the Giants kind of kicked the tires on, but they kept Brian Dable, Joe Shane. Great dude. I think he's going to turn that program around down there in Duval. But yeah, I mean, you look at the receivers that came out of UMass. Me, Vic. We had Jeremy Horn, Sheet Ranchers. A lot of good guys that came out of there. But that's nice. You got to chop it up with them.
Yeah, he was good. The owners' meetings it's a great event. It really is. You know, the Breakers is an incredible resort right on the ocean. All the owners are there. It was a little disappointing John Mara didn't talk. You know, John Mara usually speaks at the owners' meetings. We got Joe Shane, we got Brian Dable, but it really would have been an important thing to hear John Mara. He spoke after the season. He said a lot after the season, and he usually speaks at this event, and he did not. And read into that what you will. I just think he doesn't have a whole lot to say right now, and the team's coming off a 3-win year. But, they did go after Aaron Rodgers. They did go after Matthew Stafford. They did sign Russell Wilson. They did sign Jameis Winston. So they did sign the defensive players we talked about. So nice to hear John Mara speak about some of those things, but he chose not to. And we move on looking ahead to the draft.
Probably didn't want any sound bites to get out. I mean, Joe Shane had a solid free agency. Now it's all eyes on that draft and see what he's going to do. If he can hit like he hit last season, you feel like this team will be able to compete at least. Everything else after that, we'll see what happens. But, you like the Russell Wilson signing because on day one or when they come in the building, April 19th, Russ is going to be the first one in there. He like you said, he expects to be the starter. He's going to carry himself that way, and I think that's going to help these young receivers. A guy like Jalen Hyatt, unlocking him with the moon ball, he'll be able to get Wan'Dale Robinson the ball in locations where he can catch, turn, run, get some yak, and then obviously moon ball is going to help Darius Slayton, and then you just throw the ball to one, he'll find a way to come down with it. So the Giants offense got better, and I'm not just saying this because of our ties to the Giants, but you can look at it, and if you hope if Russ can still cook, Giants offense gets better, and then whatever young quarterback they bring in, you hope he's ready to compete, learn, and then you see what happens. That's what I loved about football, Paul, during my time. It's like, all right, the draft comes in, you get out there, you get out to OTAs, you get out on the field. Forget what it says on paper. I'm competing with this guy. I'm competing for this guy. You're competing for this route. You're competing for this package. It's an audition for absolutely everybody that steps out there on the field. So I love it. Close us out, Paul. One more final thought going out for us with a couple weeks left from the NFL draft.
A couple of quick things. You said, if Russ can cook. That's a big question, Brandon. It's a big question. It's been a lot of lean cuisine the last 2 or 3 years for Russell Wilson. Let's face it. He was run out of Denver, with a lot of money on his contract. And, why didn't Pittsburgh keep him, right? He was bad down the stretch. He had 16 touchdown passes for the Steelers, but he was bad down the stretch. They lost their last 4 regular season games. They lost the playoff game. And, Pittsburgh is waiting breathlessly for Aaron Rodgers when they could have just re-signed Russell Wilson. So that is something to monitor. So we'll see how much Russ has left in the tank. That's a big question mark. It really is. Overall, like I said, this draft is going to be very, very intriguing when you have the 3rd pick and there's a quarterback situation where is not settled for the future on your team, and there's might be one you can take. Look, if you're just deciding between an offensive tackle and a cornerback or a edge rusher, that's very interesting. When you throw a quarterback into the mix, it makes it fascinating because that is franchise defining when you take a quarterback up that high, either good or bad. So we'll see. We'll see. We got a lot of shifts and shimmies and things can happen in the next 3 weeks that can turn the tide. But I think right now, more Travis Hunter, less Shedeur Sanders is my take.
Never a dull day in Giants land, especially with all the news that comes out, especially ahead of this draft that's coming up as well. For Paul Schwartz, I'm Brandon London. Thank you guys for watching Blue Rush.